It's tough to argue that Barack Obama faced an easy first year. He began his term fighting 2 wars, a recession, a highly partisan Congress, and a $482 billion budget deficit. Here's a look at some of the president's high and low points during his first 365 days, paired with daily polls tracking Obama's approval rating and the percentage of Americans who think the country is headed in the wrong direction. Barack Obama is inaugurated as the first African-American president, twice. On his second day in office, he promises to close the prison at Guantanamo in a year. One problem: no one wants the prisoners. 69% of Americans say the country is headed in the wrong direction. News breaks that bailed-out Wall Street firms wrote massive bonus checks to executives. Outrage ensues.
Shameful.
Tom Daschle withdraws as nominee for Secretary of Health and Human Services due to tax problems. And he's not the only one.
Nancy Killiford.
Kathleen Sebelius.
Tim Geithner.
Obama's approval rating hits its highest point of his first year, at 65%. One day later, he signs the $787 billion economic stimulus plan in hopes of boosting the economy. Not a single House Republican and only 3 Senate Republicans vote for the bill. Fulfilling a campaign promise, the commander-in-chief pledges that U.S. forces will be out of Iraq by the end of 2011.
Our combat mission in Iraq will end.
Obama lifts President Bush's ban on federal funds for stem cell research. Along with his auto industry task force, the president tells the big 3 automakers to shape up or risk losing future government aid. Barack Obama authorizes snipers to kill Somali pirates holding Americans hostage, realizes you can't please everyone.
3 teenagers shot at the order of President Obama.
The Justice Department releases Bush-era memos outlining harsh interrogation techniques used on terrorism suspects.
Waterboarding,
Confinement boxes,
sleep deprivation.
The president tells Americans not to fret about swine flu.
It's not a cause for alarm.
Meanwhile, Vice President Joe Biden warns Americans of germ-infested subways and airplanes.
to you.
A week later, the guys make amends over cheeseburgers. Republican Arlen Specter switches parties. Democrats are now 1 step closer to 60 seats in the Senate. Obama and Dick Cheney spar over national security. Obama says he's cleaning up the Bush administration's messes.
We went off course.
Cheney justifies torture at Guantanamo.
9/11. 9/11. 9/11.
Sonia Sotomayor is tapped to be the first Hispanic Supreme Court justice. Debate ensues over whether she is racist and how to pronounce her last name.
Sotomayor.
Sotomayor.
Iran holds presidential elections. Fraud seems rampant, but the president doesn't want to get involved.
It's not productive to be seen as meddling.
Until he does, a week later.
What took you so long?
The withdrawal from Iraq begins, amid concern Iraqi security forces are not ready to take over. The president demands health care include a public option. He's called a socialist.
A socialist.
Obama says those who are betting against him signing health care reform this year are mistaken.
We are going to pass it this year.
The president, however, is mistaken. The Democratic supermajority in the House and Senate
Supermajority
turns out to be a myth when so-called
Blue dog Democrats
stall the president's health care plan. Obama says that Cambridge police officers who arrested Harvard professor Henry Louis Gates acted stupidly. Later, he admits his comment was stupid and invites everyone over for a beer.
beer.
The president celebrates his 48th birthday. Meanwhile, 58% of Republicans question his citizenship. Congress heads home to talk healthcare with constituents. There's little talking, mostly screaming.
Wait a minute.
The Obama-backed Cash for Clunkers program sends car sales soaring. However, most consumers are buying foreign-made cars. Senator Ted Kennedy dies without seeing his dream of universal health care in America.
Some Democrats now vowing they will win one for Kennedy.
We're a long way from that right now.
Reform appears to be at a standstill. The president plans a speech to America's school children. Conservatives are enraged.
indoctrination.
This is what Chairman Mao did.
Representative Joe Wilson heckles Obama during a speech to Congress. Obama heckles Kanye West.
He's a jackass.
To push his health care plan, the president does 5 television interviews in 1 weekend. He skips Fox News.
It's kind of childish and petty.
Obama lobbies for Chicago to host the 2016 Olympics. It doesn't help. Chicago is out in the first round. The healthcare debate drags on, but the public option dies in committee. Dozens of doctors meet with Obama in the Rose Garden. To enhance the photo op, the White House hands out white lab coats. The president wakes up to find the Nobel Peace Prize is actually a strange kind of curse.
No major foreign policy achievement, so why'd he win?
The public option is alive once again after talk of triggers and opt-outs. Obama convinces Senator Snowe to vote for the healthcare reform bill. She does not support a public option. The public option is probably dead. Pelosi unveils the House's plan. The public option is alive, again. Unemployment hits 10%, the highest in 26 years. Tragedy strikes Fort Hood when an Army psychiatrist opens fire, killing 13.
No words can fill the void that's been left.
The House passes health care reform with 1 Republican vote. The Obamas host their first state dinner, but these two crash the party.
The most infamous Washington break-in since Watergate.
Speaking to West Point cadets, the commander-in-chief announces he'll send 30,000 reinforcements to Afghanistan. After Senator Lieberman threatens to filibuster health care reform, the public option is now totally and completely dead, we think.
I think it's such a mistake.
Obama travels to Copenhagen for the UN climate conference. His speech falls flat. On Christmas Eve, the Senate passes a health care reform bill. All 60 Democrats vote together. Not 1 Republican is on board. The public option option remains in limbo. A Nigerian man tries to blow up an airliner over Detroit with explosives in his underpants. The plot fails. Later that week, the president admits security failures at multiple levels. The House and Senate prepare to reconcile their two healthcare reform bills. It becomes clear that the president will miss his self-imposed deadline of closing Guantanamo. Hundreds of detainees remain. Obama's approval rating hits an all-time low at 48%. More than half of Americans think the country is headed in the wrong direction. The night before Obama hits his one-year mark as president, Massachusetts elects Republican Scott Brown to replace Ted Kennedy in the Senate.
This is a referendum on the Barack Obama agenda.
Democrats lose their 60th seat. Obama's agenda, including healthcare reform, is jeopardized.
I don't see any way you go forward from here with health care.
Now, as the president begins his second year in office, a score of issues remain. Unemployment, climate change, immigration reform, don't ask, don't tell.